What's going on, guys? Briar Rabbit here, and today I've got a lot to talk about. I want to talk about King's Fall hard mode. I want to talk about the weekly update. I want to talk about kind of the future of what I've been thinking for this channel. And probably some other stuff interspersed in between. So the gameplay you're watching, I actually recorded this morning. Last night I got on with my clan. We ran through the King's Fall hard mode raid, and we got stuck at Oryx right here. So this morning I decided to do an LFG group, got on with a few people, and we were able to knock it down pretty quickly. And it's funny, I've been thinking about the hard mode an awful lot. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar. Anybody who's gone through the hard mode is pretty familiar with the fact that going through hard mode isn't really that hard. As long as you're leveled up to around, I'd say 306 or so, you can get to Oryx without too much trouble. As long as you got a team who communicates, people who can actually stay alive, it's really not that difficult. But once you get to Oryx, there's a real gear check, and if you're not 310, 311, you're going to find it difficult to stay alive. It's not impossible to do at lower levels. It's definitely not impossible, but it's definitely hard. And there's a lot of moving parts to this fight that, once you understand, really aren't that complex, but people just seem to have a hard time doing their job. And it's been weird for me because it seems like I get into certain groups and it doesn't really matter what the levels are, the light levels are of the guardians in that group. Some of those groups, they just scream through Oryx hard mode. Other groups, they bang their heads on this one for hours. And I've been part of both of those types of groups, and I'm really not sure what the difference between those groups are. I've run this both the way you're watching, where we kill the knights kind of the standard way, like what you're seeing here, and I've run the no knight strategy, where you don't kill the ogres, you actually just kind of run it the standard mode. And I haven't found a significant difference as far as the completion rates go. Some groups seem to have an easier time when they don't have to kill the knights. Other groups have no problem killing the knights, but have problems surviving, trying to get up to the sisters platforms with the ogres still alive. So I can't really comment on which kind of strategy is actually easier or harder. I think they both have their merits, and some groups seem to have more difficulty with one strategy, and it's a little easier for the other strategy. But I'm a little perplexed on why this is so hard for some groups. You know, everybody seems to be doing their job, but there's always like deaths. And, you know, I find that deaths are actually pretty avoidable in King's Fall. You know, if you know what to do in your job, like let's say you were a platform guy like I am in this video. If I stay toward the back of my platform, if I take care of the ogres very quickly, if the ogre guys, the floaters I like to call them, that stand on top of the sisters platforms, if they're doing their job and taking those ogres down quickly, I don't find it that difficult to survive, even if I'm like a 308 character. But some people, they just die really quick and really often. And I can't really figure out what the difference is, what they're doing that I'm not doing. And it doesn't seem to matter if they're a Titan, a Warlock, or a Hunter. It's just a survivability issue. And it's very, very difficult to continue on in the King's Fall hard mode Oryx fight with 5 people. So if you get somebody who dies, it's very, very difficult to continue. So you really need a group of 6 people who can just survive and do their jobs. And it can actually be kind of difficult to find that. So I've been kind of investigating that, trying to figure out what that's about. What is it that some people are doing to stay alive and some people aren't doing? Like I said, I find that if I stay kind of toward the back of the platform, if I take care of my ogres very quickly, I can just move right onto the knights, start firing at my knight very quickly, get him down, and then if the other ogre is up, I can assist with that other ogre. But often by the time I kill my knight, that ogre is down. Then I jump down, I get into the protective bubble, we take care of the Vessel of Oryx, and, you know, we're fine. But, you know, there's just some groups I'm in where we have 1 or 2 guys that are constantly dying, can't stay alive. And I haven't been able to figure out what the difference is right now. I don't think it is a get good situation either. I think it might just be some small techniques that people have learned to stay alive that other people have not yet learned. So I'd like to be able to teach that but it's a tough one to teach. It's I haven't quite figured it out yet. So if you guys got any tips or tricks on what some people are doing to stay alive in that situation and other people aren't, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave them down in the comments, because I think we've got a teachable moment here. But it may be such a subtle difference in the way some people play and some people don't. Maybe it's just that they move around a little bit more to stay alive. Maybe it's a weapon selection. Maybe some people aren't speccing their characters correctly. It's a really tough one to figure out. Anyhow, I want to talk a little bit about the weekly update as well. We got some interesting news in the weekly update. I think that it's pretty interesting that we're going to be able to purchase weapon parts soon from the gunsmith. I find that to be pretty interesting. It's weird that weapon parts are as rare as they are. They're very valuable for upgrading your weapons. And they just, it used to be a commodity. It used to be something that just everybody had 1,000 of. And I did too. I had probably well over 1,000 of them coming into the Taken King. And I've pretty much used them all up, just upgrading some of my favorite weapons. As I get new hard mode gear, as I get, better gear, I try and upgrade the gear that I really like. And I've gone through well over 1,000 weapon parts. So, it's definitely a thing. Weapon parts are more rare than I think Bungie anticipated. And then recently, Bungie actually reduced the drop rate for weapon parts, making it even more of a problem. But now you're going to be able to buy weapon parts from the gunsmith for Glimmer, which is great. There's not a whole lot of uses for Glimmer right now in the Taken King. So to me, that's just gravy. That's just something I could finally use Glimmer for. There's tons of new ways to earn Glimmer, right? It's so easy to earn Glimmer right now, but there's just nothing to spend it on. And it'll be good to be able to buy weapon parts with that Glimmer that's just kind of building up in my inventory. We're also going to have a use for Etheric Light and Wormspore. So Eris Morn is going to start accepting Wormspore in exchange for, well, something. And that's going to come a little later. There's going to be 2 updates coming relatively soon. We got a November update that's going to have the weapon parts fix in it as far as buying weapon parts from the gunsmith. And then in December, we're going to get a bigger update. And probably that's going to be closely followed by some kind of a DLC. But anyway, back to the Wormspore. We don't know what she's going to be giving us for that Wormspore, and we're also going to be able to finally use our Etheric Light that was so important in the House of Wolves on something. We're going to actually exchange that with Petrovenge, so that'll be interesting to see what these two are going to exchange for this stuff. Maybe it'll just be heavy ammo or something simple for the Wormspore. Wormspore is not that valuable. It's definitely something that just kind of collects in our inventory at this point. But Etheric Light is relatively valuable. It's not readily available anymore. I think there are still a couple of ways you can get it. I think you could still get it from the Prison Elders, but I'm not sure on that. I might have to double check. But a lot of us have it left over. It was definitely something we were trying to get a lot of in the House of Wolves DLC over the summer, but suddenly with the Taken King, it lost all value. There was basically nothing to do with it. But it's kind of rare, so I'd like to get something pretty special for that Etheric Light. I don't know what that would be. Maybe good gear, maybe some way to, I don't know, customize gear we already have. It'd be pretty cool to see what they're going to do with that. I think it's interesting too that we're going to be getting a weapon balance update in December. I'm glad that it's coming pretty quickly. They also said that they're probably going to adjust some of the subclasses. I would expect that Sunbreakers, who have been complained about endlessly by the community, are going to see some adjustment. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see that. They also have noted that they are looking at kind of the player data for the Trials of Osiris, which is a good place to kind of look at what weapons are being used, what's overpowered, what's got a higher kill death ratio than something else, and they're going to use that to kind of help them balance the game in the future. And I think that's a real good idea. So those statistics they get out of the Trials of Osiris is going to help them balance the game in the future. And I also think that probably also means that after that December update, you'll remember last year we got the Dark Below in December. I don't think we're going to get a DLC in December this year. That would be surprising to me. but I wouldn't be surprised if we get one early next year. I think that if they spread these things out over like 4 months or so, and they do three big releases a year, basically 2 DLCs and a big release, either Destiny 2 or Comet, depending on what year it is. I think that would pretty much satisfy gamers at this point. So seeing that they're going to do kind of a major update in December, I wouldn't be surprised if we have an announcement of DLC coming pretty soon here. Maybe, they kind of mentioned that we might see some announcements after the Festival of the Lost is done. So, maybe we'll start hearing about the next DLC, which would be really exciting. I'm still having a ton of fun with the Taken King. I have 3 characters. 2 of the characters have not even nearly completed all their quests. Some of those quests, though, are kind of pointless. You'll see actually at the end of this video, this Warlock that I'm playing as now finally gets to the step where he can get the Touch of Malice, which I'm not going to do because I already have a Touch of Malice. I don't need 3 of them, so I'll probably just abandon the quest. But that's the kind of thing I need to do on my Hunter and my Warlock, because I kind of mained my Titan through the beginning of the Taken King just to try and get a character up to raid level as fast as possible. That person happened to be my Titan. I did want to talk about the future of the channel a little bit. I know a lot of you have been asking, are you going to do Black Ops 3 content? Are you going to do Fallout 4 content? Black Ops 3, I'm definitely looking forward to playing. I haven't downloaded it yet. It is out right now. But my mind is actually more concentrated on Trials of Osiris. I'm looking forward to getting some Trials runs in. I was not able to do that last week, which was really disappointing to me, because I was actually away in Philadelphia visiting family. So because of that, I was not able to do any Trials runs at all last weekend. But this weekend, I'm definitely looking forward to getting into Trials of Osiris, getting to the Lighthouse with all 3 of my characters, and getting some of that sweet Trials gear. From what I understand, the guns aren't so hot. They're not really all they're cracked up to be. They're not nearly as good as they were in House of Wolves. But the armor is pretty good. So I'm looking forward to getting some of that armor. Hopefully I can finally get a helmet, because believe it or not, I've completed the raid on all 3 of my characters. Every week the raid has been available, and have yet to get a helmet, which really pisses me off. I understand it's RNG, but Jesus, man, I really want at least one of these characters to have a raid helmet. I have to use exotic helmets to get them to kind of raid light levels, and that's not always an optimal thing. If I don't necessarily want to be a blade dancer with my Hunter, too bad. I've got to use the Mask of the Third Man to get him to maximum light level, as high as I can get him, right? Because that's my only 310 light level helmet. So, Trials of Osiris offering another way of getting high light level gear is really appealing to me, because the raid has been unbelievably stingy. I think even more stingy than, well, maybe not as bad as Vault of Glass was, but definitely way more stingy than Crota's End was. So I'm looking forward to getting into Trials of Osiris this weekend. I'll definitely be competing with all 3 characters. And I like the fact that you don't necessarily have to get to the Lighthouse to get some pretty damn good gear. If you do your bounties, if you get a few wins here and there, you're going to get some decent gear out of it. And I think that will keep people's interest high in the Trials of Osiris over the long term, even if you're not in one of those teams that regularly goes to the Lighthouse. I've been on teams like that, and it can be really frustrating, especially for people who never get to the Lighthouse. But this way, even if you're not getting to the Lighthouse, you're making gains, and I think that's a great... it's kind of like not beating Oryx in the King's Fall raid. You get all the way through the raid, and you make gains while you're going through that raid, but you don't necessarily beat Oryx. You're probably not going to get the helmet or a primary weapon, right? Kind of the same thing goes with Trials of Osiris. You play a little Trials of Osiris, you play enough to complete your bounties, maybe you get a few wins, you get some rewards after those wins, so you don't get the high-class weapons that come just out of the Lighthouse, but you still get some good stuff. Hopefully it's gear that kind of increases your light level a little bit, and you still feel like overall it was not only a fun experience, but it was one that gave you a net gain as far as light level goes. Right now, I feel like the raid is almost not something that gives me a net gain. All my characters are sitting right around the 310 to 312 mark, and until I start getting helmet drops, that's just not going to change. Like, I'll tell you, this raid has been unbelievably stingy. You can see right here, I got another pulse rifle, and it was just a little bit worse than the one I already had, and I got another chest armor that was way worse than the one I already had. So it's just, you know, these drops aren't coming for me. I don't know if I'm just extremely unlucky or not, but that's how it's going for me. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I know it's a bit of a ramble, but I like to do that every once in a while. Get some stuff off my chest. Thanks for watching. Hit that like button if you liked the video. Hit subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time.